If your mind never stops racing, if you overthink every little thing, and if worry is slowly draining your energy, then what you're about to hear might change your life forever. For over 2,000 years, the teachings of Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism have helped people stay calm in chaos. Today, you're about to learn 10 ancient habits that will help you silence your mind, regain control, and finally feel at peace. Worrying and overthinking don't come from the world. They come from how we interpret it. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't try to control everything. Instead, they mastered their reactions. If you apply even a few of these habits, you'll notice something powerful. Your mind will slow down, your emotions will stabilize, and you'll start living with clarity. Let's begin. 1. Focus only on what you can control. Most of your anxiety comes from things outside your control, other people, outcomes, opinions. The Stoics teach, control your actions, not the results. When you stop trying to control everything, your mind naturally relaxes. Ask yourself daily, is this in my control? If not, let it go too. Practice negative visualization. Instead of fearing the worst, imagine it calmly. This Stoic exercise prepares your mind for challenges, making you less reactive and more stable. Ironically, this reduces anxiety because nothing feels shocking anymore. You become mentally ready for anything. 3. Detach from external validation. Overthinking often comes from worrying about what others think. The truth, people are too busy thinking about themselves. When you stop chasing approval, your mind becomes quiet. Your worth is not determined by opinions, it comes from your character. 4. Accept reality as it is. Resistance creates suffering. The Stoics believed in accepting reality, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. When you accept things as they are, you stop fighting life. And your mind finds peace. 5. Limit your imagination. Your mind creates problems that don't even exist. Overthinking is often just imagination running wild. Train yourself to focus on facts, not assumptions. Most of what you fear will never happen. 6. Practice daily reflection. Every night, reflect on your day. What did I do well? What can I improve? This habit clears your mind and prevents thoughts from piling up. It gives you closure and clarity. 7. Embrace discomfort. Avoiding discomfort creates anxiety. Facing it builds strength. The more you expose yourself to difficult situations, the less your mind panics. You become calm because you've trained yourself to handle pressure. 8. Slow down your reactions. You don't need to react immediately. When something triggers you, pause, breathe, think. This simple habit gives you control over your emotions instead of letting them control you. 9. Live in the present moment. Worry lives in the future. Regret lives in the past. Peace exists only in the present. Focus on what's happening right now. When your mind drifts, gently bring it back. This is where calm begins. 10. Remember, you will die one day. This may sound harsh, but it's powerful. The Stoics used this reminder to eliminate trivial worries. When you realize life is short, you stop overthinking small things. You focus on what truly matters. If your mind never stops racing, if you replay conversations over and over, if you imagine problems that haven't even happened yet, then you're not alone. Most people today are trapped in a constant cycle of overthinking and silent worry. It feels like your mind is always on, always analyzing, always searching for control, but never finding peace. And the truth is, the more you try to control everything, the more anxious you become. But thousands of years ago, there were people who lived through war, loss, uncertainty, and chaos, yet remained calm, focused, and unshaken. They weren't superhuman. They simply trained their minds differently. They understood something that most people today have forgotten. Peace doesn't come from controlling the outside world. It comes from mastering the inner one. Right now, your mind may feel crowded. Too many thoughts. Too many what ifs. Too many fears about things that haven't even happened. And the worst part is, you probably already know it's unnecessary, but you still can't stop. That's because overthinking is not just a habit. It's a pattern your mind has practiced over and over again. And like any pattern, it can be replaced. The first shift begins when you realize that not everything deserves your attention. Your energy is limited. Your focus is valuable. Yet most of it is wasted on things you cannot change. Other people's opinions, uncertain outcomes, imagined scenarios. When you start separating what is within your control from what is not, something powerful happens. Your mind begins to quiet down. Not instantly, but gradually. You stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight in the first place. And suddenly, you feel lighter. Overthinking thrives on uncertainty. It feeds on the unknown. Your mind tries to predict every possible outcome so you can feel safe, but this backfires. Instead of feeling prepared, you feel overwhelmed. So instead of avoiding worst-case scenarios, try facing them calmly in your mind. Not with fear, but with acceptance. When you mentally prepare for difficulties, they lose their power over you. You stop being shocked by life. You become steady. You begin to realize that even if things go wrong, you will handle it. Another hidden cause of overthinking is the need for approval. The constant question in your mind, what will they think of me? This single thought has stolen more peace than almost anything else. But take a moment and reflect. How often are you thinking about other people's small mistakes? Rarely. Because just like you, they are busy thinking about themselves. When you stop living for validation, your thoughts become quieter. You no longer replay every word you said. You no longer fear being judged at every moment. You begin to act freely. And that freedom feels like peace. There is also a silent resistance inside most people. A resistance to reality. Things don't go as planned, and the mind immediately pushes back. This shouldn't be happening. But reality doesn't change because we resist it. It only creates more tension, more frustration, more overthinking. When you begin to accept things as they are, not because you like them, but because they exist, you remove that internal conflict. You stop arguing with life. And in that moment of acceptance, your mind relaxes. Overthinking is often nothing more than imagination running wild. You create stories in your head, filling in gaps with fear. You assume the worst without evidence. You build entire scenarios that never happen. And yet your body reacts as if they are real. Learning to separate facts from assumptions is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. Facts are simple. They are grounded. They are real. Assumptions are endless and dangerous. When you bring your mind back to what is actually happening, most of your worries disappear instantly. There is also something deeply powerful about reflection. Not overthinking, but intentional reflection. At the end of each day, when you sit quietly and review your actions, your decisions, your reactions, you clear your mind. You don't carry the weight of the day into tomorrow. Instead, you learn, you adjust, you grow. Without reflection, thoughts pile up, they stay unresolved. And that's when overthinking begins to take over. Many people try to avoid discomfort. They avoid difficult conversations, challenging situations, and unfamiliar experiences. But avoidance doesn't remove fear. It strengthens it. Every time you avoid something, your mind learns that it is dangerous. But when you face discomfort, even in small ways, you prove to yourself that you can handle it. And with each experience, your confidence grows. Your mind becomes calmer because it trusts you. You are no longer fragile. One of the simplest yet most powerful habits is learning to pause. Not everything needs an immediate reaction. In fact, most things don't. When something triggers you, your first impulse is often emotional. But if you can pause, even for a few seconds, you create space between the event and your response. In that space, there is control. And in that control, there is peace. Most worry comes from living in a time that doesn't exist. Either you're stuck in the past, replaying what already happened, or you're lost in the future, fearing what might happen. But life is happening now. When you bring your attention back to the present moment, your breath, your surroundings, what you're doing, you anchor yourself. The noise fades. The chaos slows down. You begin to experience life instead of thinking about it. And then there's one truth that many people avoid, yet it has the power to eliminate so much unnecessary worry. You will not be here forever. At first, this thought may feel uncomfortable. But if you truly understand it, it changes everything. The things you stress about daily, the small embarrassments, the minor mistakes, the opinions of others, suddenly feel insignificant. You start focusing on what truly matters. Your time, your growth, your peace. And you stop wasting your energy on things that don't deserve it. Imagine waking up each day with a quieter mind. Imagine not replaying every conversation, not fearing every outcome, not being controlled by every thought. That version of you is not far away. It's built through small, consistent changes in how you think. You don't need to eliminate thoughts. You need to stop believing all of them. Your mind will always produce ideas, fears, and scenarios. That's its nature. But you get to decide which ones deserve your attention. And when you start choosing carefully, everything changes. Peace is not something you find outside. It's something you build within. It's built when you let go of control. It's built when you accept reality. It's built when you stop seeking approval. It's built when you focus on what truly matters. And the more you practice, the stronger it becomes. If this message is speaking to you right now, then take it as a sign. A sign that you're ready to stop living in constant worry. A sign that you're ready to take control of your mind. Because once you do, your life will never feel the same again. There's a moment that happens to almost everyone, though most people don't notice it. It's late at night. Everything is quiet. There are no distractions left. No noise, no conversations, no scrolling. Just you and your thoughts. And suddenly, your mind begins to speak. It brings up things you said earlier in the day. Things you wish you had said differently. It reminds you of mistakes, of missed opportunities, of things that could go wrong tomorrow. One thought leads to another, and before you realize it, your mind is no longer under your control. You're no longer thinking. You're being carried. This is where overthinking truly lives. Not in big dramatic moments, but in the silent ones. The unnoticed moments where your mind slowly drifts away from the present and builds a world that feels real, but isn't. And the more you stay in that world, the harder it becomes to return. But here's something most people never realize. That voice in your head, the one that worries, that overanalyzes, that creates fear, it's not always telling the truth. In fact, most of the time, it's just trying to protect you in the only way it knows how. By imagining every possible danger. By preparing you for every possible outcome. By keeping you alert. But in doing so, it exhausts you. Because it never stops. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology existed. They observed the mind carefully. They noticed how easily it could create suffering out of nothing. And instead of trying to silence the mind completely, they trained themselves to question it. To step back and ask, is this thought useful? Is it true? Or is it just noise? And that simple act of questioning creates distance. It separates you from the storm inside your head. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. Wind, rain, chaos everywhere. That's what overthinking feels like. But now imagine stepping outside of it, observing it from a distance. The storm is still there, but it no longer controls you. That's what awareness does. It doesn't remove thoughts. It changes your relationship with them. And once that relationship changes, everything begins to shift. You start noticing patterns. You notice how your mind tends to exaggerate problems. How it jumps to conclusions without evidence. How it replays the same situations over and over again, hoping to find a different outcome. But there is no different outcome. The past is fixed, and yet the mind keeps returning to it, as if it can somehow rewrite what has already happened. This is where so much mental energy is lost. Replaying, regretting, reimagining, and none of it changes reality. The Stoics had a powerful way of dealing with this. They didn't deny mistakes. They learned from them quickly, then moved on. They understood that holding on to the past doesn't make you wiser, it makes you stuck. Growth comes from reflection. Suffering comes from repetition. So instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" they asked, "What can I learn from this?" That single shift transforms everything. Because now, your focus is no longer on the problem, it's on the lesson. And lessons don't create anxiety. They create strength. There's also something else happening beneath overthinking that many people ignore. Fear of uncertainty. The future is unknown, and the mind hates the unknown. It wants clarity. It wants guarantees. It wants control. But life doesn't offer those things. And so the mind tries to compensate by imagining every possible scenario. If this happens, then what? But what if that goes wrong? What if I fail? And on it goes. But here's the paradox. The more you try to predict the future, the more anxious you become. Because there are endless possibilities. And you can't control them all. The Stoics approached this differently. They didn't try to control the future. They prepared themselves for it. They built inner strength instead of external certainty. Because when you are strong enough internally, you don't need to know what's coming next. You trust that whatever happens, you will handle it, and that trust is where peace begins. Think about a time in your life when something went wrong, something you were worried about. At the time, it probably felt overwhelming. Maybe even unbearable. But you got through it, you adapted. You survived. And if you've done it before, you can do it again. Your mind forgets this. It focuses only on the fear, not your ability to handle it. But once you remind yourself of your own resilience, worry starts to lose its grip. Because now you're not just facing uncertainty, you're facing it with confidence. Another quiet habit that can change everything is learning to let thoughts pass without reacting to them. Most people believe that every thought deserves attention. That every worry needs to be solved. That every fear must be analyzed. But this is what creates the cycle. Because the more you engage with a thought, the stronger it becomes. It's like feeding a fire. The Stoics practiced something different. They observed their thoughts without immediately responding. They allowed them to come and go, like clouds passing through the sky. Not every cloud becomes a storm. And not every thought needs to become a problem. This takes practice. At first, it feels unnatural. Your mind will try to pull you back in. It will demand attention. It will try to convince you that this thought is important. But with time, you begin to see the pattern. Most thoughts are temporary. And when you stop holding onto them, they disappear on their own. There is also a deep sense of freedom that comes when you stop needing everything to go your way. So much stress comes from expectation. You expect things to happen a certain way. You expect people to behave a certain way. You expect outcomes to match your plans. And when they don't, your mind reacts. It questions. It resists. It overthinks. But life rarely follows your expectations perfectly. And the more rigid those expectations are, the more frustrated you become. The Stoics replaced expectation with acceptance. Not passive acceptance, but intelligent acceptance. They focused on doing their best, while remaining open to whatever outcome came. And this made them incredibly calm. Because they were no longer tied to a specific result. They were grounded in effort, not outcome. And that shift removes a huge amount of mental pressure. Imagine going through your day without constantly worrying about how everything will turn out. Imagine focusing only on what you can do, right now, in this moment. That is what mental freedom feels like. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop controlling what cannot be controlled. And in doing so, your mind finally gets the rest it has been craving. So as you continue listening, remember this. You don't need to fight your mind. You don't need to eliminate every negative thought. You only need to stop letting those thoughts control your actions. Because the moment you take back control, is the moment everything begins to change.